Call Andrew Williams.
Mr Speaker, the matter before us might come as a bit of a surprise to the National Party in that New Zealand First likewise is not supporting this legislation. And it's surprising that perhaps the National Party hasn't sought to ask our views about this before, and I didn't provide them. No, but you assumed that we supported it, and we didn't provide them. So, like the RMA last week, where the Minister was reporting and saying that we were supporting the change to the RMA, again, that is incorrectly reported. We do support some streamlining and some tweaking of the RMA, but certainly in terms of Part 2 of the RMA, we do not support that, and that is certainly not the position of New Zealand First. And it is interesting when you look back through this, Mr Speaker, we looked at the Cabinet paper that Nick Smith presented to Cabinet on the 4th of the 8th of 2013 to the Cabinet Economic Growth and Infrastructure Committee, and it says in that, in paragraph 10, this proposal also reflects the National Party 2008 Election Manifesto Agreement to introduce a new Environmental Reporting Act requiring independent 5-yearly State of the Environment reports as a new function of the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment. So that's what the National Party was saying in 2008, that there'll be a new function of the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment. Sometime in the interim period between then and that period in 2011, they changed that, and they decided, because I don't think they were getting quite the right answers from the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment, so they decided, let's do something a bit different. Let's take some of this outside the realms of the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment and put it under a different bit of legislation so that the Minister can pull the strings and dictate how he or she wants it, so that the independent Commissioner who reports to this House, to Parliament, does not report to the Government, but the Parliamentary Commissioner reports to this House, as does the Ombudsman and as does the Auditor General. They decided that they would politicise it and move it in more under the Minister's control. I'll just read out the functions of the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment. And when you're listening to these functions, ask, well, why wouldn't this simply come under that Parliamentary Commissioner? The functions are drawn from the Environment Act 1986, and the Commissioner has wide discretion to exercise them. They include review the system of agencies and processes set up by the Government to manage the country's resources and report to the House of Representatives. Investigate the effectiveness of environmental planning and management by public authorities and advise them on remedial action. Investigate any matter where the environment may be or has been adversely affected, advise on preventative measures or remedial action, and report to the House. Report on a request from the House or any select committee on any petition, bill or any other matter which may have a significant effect on the environment. Inquire on the direction of the House into any matter that has had or may have a substantial and damaging effect on the environment. Undertake and encourage the collection and dissemination of information about the environment. I'll repeat that. Undertake and encourage the collection and dissemination of information about the environment. And lastly, encourage preventive measures and remedial actions to protect the environment. And the Commissioner has considerable powers and powers of recommendation to this House in relation to the environment. So why wouldn't you, if you've already got this Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment, why would you not build or expand that briefing to provide the 5-yearly reports? And in 2011, a discussion paper that the National Party had, the discussion paper proposed in 2011 that the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment would produce a major report on the state of the environment every 5 years. So here we've got a situation, Mr Speaker, where 2008, the National Party puts out its manifesto, says this is what we're going to do, and we're going to bring this in. Then in 2011, they put forward a discussion document saying the Parliamentary Commissioner will produce a report every 5 years on the environment. That's what we'll have. And then what happens? It all changes, and between 2011 and 2013, they go away from that and say, oh, no, we're not going to give all this responsibility to the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment. We are going to do it under a separate part of legislation, and we will ask her to put some input and some auditing and some advice into this reporting, but it will not be the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment's sole discretion to provide this information to the government and to the Parliament. And why is that? The reason is, Mr. Speaker, is that this government does not trust the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment to independently report to both this House and to the government, because they won't get the answers that they want. They won't get the answers that they want. And so what this is doing is basically, in our opinion, this is basically undermining the role of the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment. It's taking away the functions from that very independent office, and it's making sure that this is done where the Minister can pull the strings and get these 5-year reports according to how the Minister will want it. Now, we've seen already Nick Smith getting involved with the Ruatanawha Dam, and where the Department of Conservation put forward a report and he didn't like the look of it, and it went back and it had to be altered so that the Minister got the report in terms of the Ruatanawha Dam that suited the Minister. This is a very dangerous area, Mr. Speaker, where ministries are supposed to advise. They are the civil servants. They are supposed to give independent advice, which is full, impartial and accurate to the ministers. And then in terms of the Ruatanawha Dam, they were supposed to submit on the basis of their best advice on the matter. And the Minister intervened, and the report all got watered down and changed. Now, I can see the same thing happening here in this situation, where the Minister will determine every 5 years which of those air, water, various other elements will be reported on. And if they don't like the look of how the reports are scrubbing up, we are certain that they will want to manipulate them and change them, because they would not want the reports to reflect poorly on the Minister or on the government. Now, if the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment was to do the reports and to also commission the statistics and to also report, do the various other things required under this bill, she would operate under the basis that she is an independent officer of Parliament, has wide-ranging powers to investigate environmental concerns, and the independent means she is independent of the government of the day and reports to Parliament. That's pretty simple. That's pretty simple, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, New Zealand First, and we've considered this, and we've looked at this, and we've said, well, why did the National Party, over a period of 5 years, when they were in opposition, it was all very well to work with the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment, all very well to when you're in opposition and you're sitting on the benches over here, but once you're in government and then you want to start manipulating things so that the reports look good, you take it away from that independent function and you take it down this track. Now, we are very suspicious because in hearing from the Parliamentary Commissioner over the last few years, it's very interesting how that office has had to go very quiet in this whole area and has basically made minimal comment in terms of how this is going. And we believe, therefore, basically that office has been constrained in terms of any comment in this. And it would be very interesting to know, what pressure has been borne on that. We have seen this Prime Minister of this country already threaten the Human Rights Commissioner, already threaten and say the funding might be pulled from the Human Rights Commission if this government does not get the answers, or if the Human Rights Commission puts out reports that the government is not very happy with. And you cannot deny it. You cannot deny it. There were threats made by the Prime Minister in relation to the Human Rights Commissioner and forward funding for that commission. The same has happened here. I'm sure that there has been an underlying situation where the reports coming out of the PCE office from the Commissioner of the Environment's office have not all been necessarily how the government have wanted, and therefore this government is moving to ensure that they don't have that Commissioner independently able to advise this House and all members of this House in an independent manner. So New Zealand First will be studying this at Select Committee, and we'll be following it. And again, we're sure there will be a huge number of submissions. Will the government listen to those submissions? Who would know? But at the end of the day, this is about reporting to the Parliament, not to the government.
I call Maggie Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak to the Environmental Reporting Bill with great